Yeah, that's fair. I do wonder what it like. We have seen gear get discolored over time, but it does depend on how you take care of it, right? So, and I feel like chest protectors are one of those things that you tend to wear for a long time too, right? Especially when you find
Fair.
like I feel like wearing this is one that a lot of people are really gonna love. So you're gonna be like, yeah, this one's a keeper, and I'm gonna have it for a long time. So maybe avoid the yellow stains, right? It's like my teeth after drinking coffee. I'm not sure you want to see that very often.
Mine will look brand new because I don't sweat enough. It'll be great. 3 years in, just like new. We've got the NHL censoring a feature interview. Josh Tucker making his way into the studio in just a little bit. But first, the Stop It Goaltending You app parent segment. And this is really interesting. Why encourage your goaltender to be a referee or an official? And I can think of a couple of real benefits right off the bat. But walk us through this, Hutch.
Well, I think just before I do that, Woody should probably tell us all the great reasons that you should become a Stop It Goaltending You app member, which includes getting a free in-goal membership.
Well, I think one of them, I'm going to guess, Hutch, probably ties into this because my guess is one of your reasons for being a referee is there's probably a certain mindset that might transfer very nicely to being a goaltender. And when I look at all the almost like it feels immeasurable features that come with the Stop It Goaltending You app, one of the nice things is the way they organize them in a way where you can just sort of check them off on a day-to-day basis. You don't have to dive in. You could dive in for hours, but you can just go through each day, spend a couple of minutes, 30 minutes a week max, and you become unstoppable thanks to the world's most comprehensive app for goaltending. And when I look at their goalie power pep talks this week, one of them talks about confidence. Another talks about not waiting, doing it now, bouncing back from adversity if you've been cut, a mindset of no one cares, blocking it all out and competing. And then you go into the tips, the on-ice stuff where they get into the more specific sort of almost like an in-goal version of pro reads, right? Where you've got guys playing at a high level, sharing how they approach things. They've got call and win this week, learning how high-level goalies break down and read and prepare and play a 2-on-1 opportunity. Now, call and win, for those unfamiliar, was with Youngstown Phantoms of the USHL this year, and he'll be at St. Lawrence University next year. So just another example where they get on the ice with a high-level goalie, and he explains to you how he sees things just by listening to that. Whether you decide to play it the exact same way as him or not, you're hearing different ideas, different approaches, and you'll get better as a goaltender by absorbing them all. So whether it's the quick tips, the goalie 101, or the goalie power pep talks, there's something for you at the Stop It Goaltending You app. And of course, you get, as Hutch mentioned earlier, a free subscription to In-Goal Magazine if you sign up for the Stop It Goalie You app. Combine the best of both worlds when it comes to goaltending development and have it all in front of you on your phone to get better by the time the puck drops on next season.
It is an absolutely beautiful resource for goaltenders, and you can spend hours going through all the different sections of Stop It Goaltending You, the app. Now, goaltending and officials, there's probably no more individual on the ice highlighted more thoroughly and specifically than those two positions or those two roles.
Well, there you go. And that's the end of the parent segment, everybody.
Really?
No, but that's, you make a really good point. Goaltending and referee, great partnership, just like In Goal and Stop It You, the app. I was thinking about this because Woody came back from the U.S. Hockey National Goaltending Symposium and mentioned the trouble they're having finding goaltenders. And it's not just in the United States, but that's what brought it top of mind for me, guys. And we hear the very same thing in a lot of associations about referees. People often say that being a goalie parent is as hard a role as any in sports. Well, gentlemen, let me tell you, it's not a picnic being a referee parent either, because you have two teams all over your kid. But this week, I still want to encourage all goalies to try being a referee. And I've got 5 reasons, and as often, one little bonus, and I'll share them. And then maybe you guys let me know what you think. The first one, number 5, it comes in at is, I don't know, it feels a little bad saying this one, but you can make a few bucks being a referee. And it's not the reason alone you should do it, but especially as you're trying to move up to elite levels in sport, guys, it's pretty tough to find a job, make some pocket money that fits your quirky schedule of training. And referees are always needed, and they're generally paid pretty well. And at age 12, it's hard to find a job that can make you a few bucks, but you can as a referee. So that's kind of cool. And it builds some great skills that employers will love down the road as much as any job that a kid could have. So that's number 5. Number 4, you can get some calls for your team in a game if you are a referee. I'm not suggesting that referees will help out a fellow referee and just bend the rules for them. Although a few years ago, my son's goalie coach, and I have to say that is not the Vancouver Giants goalie coach, swore to me that his team got far more calls since he joined the team. But I mean, you can literally have a conversation with a referee that will help your team. And it happens more often than you would imagine. It's happened multiple times for Matthew, where he's called a referee over, where a mistake has been made, and they listen to him largely because he's right and because they know that he's an official and they respect his opinion. Just give you one small example. The rules in minor hockey were changed around here so that slew footing was no longer a 2-minute minor, but a 2-minute minor was awarded for slew footing that gave Matthew's team a power play, but he called the official over and he said, hey, you got a good call there, but just so you know, the rule is now that you have to make that a double minor. If you call that slew footing, you don't have a choice. Call was changed, 2 minutes was added, his team got an extended power play, and that certainly made Matty a bit of a hero with his coach that time, and that sort of thing happens frequently. So knowing the rules, understanding the rules, and having a great relationship with the other officials definitely helps you. One I know you're really familiar with, Darren, as being important is that skating and edge work, right? If you want to be a good goalie skater, I can assure you that all the miles that you log in player skates to help you become a better skater as a referee will benefit your goaltending. I don't know if everybody knows this, but at least over here, player skates are mandatory as a referee. You can't go out there in goalie skates. I'm not quite sure why. I think if you can keep up, you can keep up, but that's the rule here. I think it helps your skating. And it's a big skill in how referees are evaluated as well. And I'm also not sure if you realize that skating as a referee is a little bit different than as a player. They actually discourage all the starting and stopping that players have to do. And they encourage a lot more edge work, a lot more looping around and so on as a referee. And I think that all really helps you as a goaltender. So we often say that you should play out as a goalie if you can. That's not often easy to do. But in terms of getting the skating skills at least and a few other things, a referee can sort of supplement your goaltending in that respect. Another one that was interesting to me, guys, was understanding the game actually helps your mindset. It's kind of related to what's going to be my number one reason when we get to it in a second. But when you understand how tough an official's job is, you actually probably don't get as upset at them, and it becomes one less of a distraction for you. It's something that Matthew mentioned to me this season. He said, I used to get angry all the time when the ref made a bad call or he didn't make a call, but I know how hard it is for them, so I just don't get upset. It's really become a non-factor. And that's just one less thing for you to get stressed about during a game, and I think that makes you a better goaltender. Similarly, if your teammates and coaches are losing their minds over a call, you might find yourself saying, look, guys, I know it's frustrating, but you actually got the call right. So let's move on. And that can be helpful as well. So staying calm in those moments because you understand the game, you understand the officials. It's also going to get you more respect with the officials so that when the time comes and you need to have a conversation with them, and this is a tip for all players and coaches, they're probably going to listen to you a little bit more. And then the number one reason is, as I think everybody would have imagined, is mindset. It takes real maturity to keep your head up and do your job when everyone in the rink on both sides now are getting upset with you, even when you do your job well. And it's not just players, but it's adults yelling at young kids who are officiating, which should not happen, but it does, and often with some pretty colorful language. So if as a young referee, you can learn to deal with that, it's going to help you as a goaltender too. There's pressure to get calls right. The impact of a decision can matter to both teams. Even longer term, it can matter if you're calling significant penalties, kicking guys out of games and so on. That's a lot on the mind for a young person to learn to deal with as they're growing up. And it's a big responsibility. Look, even managing the whole game itself is a big responsibility. So it's not easy, but if you can learn to manage those stresses of the job, I think it's going to make you a better goaltender in terms of being able to manage what you're doing out there. And I do want to give one sort of shameless shout out, if I can here, guys, while we're doing this. We all know how important it is to have a position specific coach to help you navigate the waters as a young goaltender. And often young goalies don't get that. I'd say the same thing goes for officials. Dealing with all those things, adults yelling at you and so on, is not easy as a youngster. And having somebody to guide you through that is so important. There's a lot of mentors out there who deal with young officials. I want to thank all of them. In our case, Cody Gessner is a local referee who has been a mentor to Matthew since he was 12 years old and continues right up to his time playing in the CHL. They still talk frequently. Without these guys, we would not have the same guidance for our young officials, and it would not be the same experience. So thank you to all the mentors. And I promised a bonus. I think having your son or daughter become a referee is good for goalie parents as well. I'll admit that I was a guy who yelled at referees as a hockey parent, boys. We're not talking bat poop crazy hockey parent, but I definitely got into it from time to time, and I'm not proud of it. But I'll tell you that as soon as you imagine it's your son or daughter in those skates and the stripes out there, it's a real eye opener. And having some good conversations with your kid about the position of being an official and their experience out there helps you understand it even more. So I think it's going to help you become a better person and enjoy the game and enjoy your time at the rink more, without a doubt, just as much as it's going to help your son or daughter become a better goaltender. So encourage your kid to give it a try, become an official, and see what it's like.
So I got a question, and this is just my nitpicky little goalie equipment brain working overtime. You're not allowed to wear goalie skates as a referee.
Mm-hmm.
With the evolution,
at least here, I can't say that for everywhere.
Okay, so with the evolution of goalie skates, like, who can tell?
Yeah.
I mean, you can a little bit, but you're right. And so, what's the point?
Yeah, I mean, I guess certain ones you could, like, like a true one piece or a true. Wait. By the way, that's a nice tease for next week's gear segment with the new true skate being released, and us doing an overview with the hockey shop of that. But a lot of them, like, I look at my Bauer skates with, the no cowling, or my CCM skates with a no cowling, and I'm not sure most people could tell.
From a distance, I think a lot of people couldn't tell. Generally, the blades are not as rockered, and that's probably the reason, because they want those sharp turns as opposed to the starts and stops. But I can do them in goalie skates in one direction.
I guess if you're the referee, though, you're probably supposed to listen to the rules.
You're probably
good point.
The rules. I mean, come on. At age 12, that's not going to make a difference, but it actually might keep a family who already has to spend too much to be a goaltender from having their kid become an official, because now they have to buy another pair of skates as well. So come on, guys. If that is your local rule, I would suggest you do away with it, at least until they get to the elite levels.
I like what you said about being more patient with the referees because of the tough job that they do, and you can relate to that. I was actually going into it wondering if the opposite would be the case, where you'd be more critical. But I'm glad that you brought that up, because I hadn't considered that.
Well, everything's perspective, isn't it? I mean, you could look at something as a problem, you can look at it as an opportunity, and how do you take it? So I do think maybe those situations would magnify who you are, but I would hope that if you're thoughtful, and as I mentioned in the end with my little shout out to all the referee mentors out there, I think with the right guidance in all of those situations, that you can learn to take that to your advantage of understanding what they're going through, as opposed to getting upset about it.
I'm a firm believer that everybody at the age of 14 on should have to take a referee course, whether you're a referee or not, but you take a referee course of any, whether you're a forward, a defenseman, or a goaltender, just to understand the rules a little bit more. And so I'm right with you on the benefits of being an official as you play goal.
We've actually talked about having a rules segment on In Goal. Be interesting to know what people think of us doing that. You could email us at parents@ingoalmag.com. Rules specifically related to goalies and the crease and so on, because there's actually quite a few things that I think most people don't understand, or at least a lot of people don't understand. So it's kind of fun. So even if you take that referee course, I think learning from case law, so to speak, different situations would really help you understand and enjoy the game more as well. So I agree with you, Darren, and I think we could take it another step further too.
Kind of goes back to that USA Hockey thing about everybody trying goalie. I remember a great story about one of their elite players who was always hard on the goalies having to do goalie for a day, and then after that had a totally new appreciation for it, and his mindset towards the goaltenders, both his and the other, changed entirely because he had to experience it for a day. In terms of weird rules, it's going to take some work. We got to figure out at some point. I understand that we weren't allowed to tape our knobs with black tape because it could look like a puck. And that's the reason the no colored tape on the knob rule exists. But how are we confusing red or yellow or green or purple or whatever for a black puck? Like, why can't we have colored tape? Just make it no black tape. There's a rule that we need to change. It really doesn't mean much. If I had $100 for the number of times I found an NHL goaltender who actually didn't know the rule, I would probably have a couple $1,000s by now. Like, it actually happens. I've explained it to a few guys. I had one guy tell me I was